Okay, so here is a sorted, organized collection of pieces that can be used to build a simple robot for scientists and residents that lends itself well for connecting sensors to the front. This robot will have 2 wheels and a third ski support in the back for balance of the chassis of the robot. Looking at these pieces, top right hand corner we have a pair of small L's, a pair of large L's. Directly below that we have a 9-hole angled beam and 2 J-beams. Directly below that, of course, 2 wheels. Next to the wheels, working our way back up, we have 4 3-lung beams, a collection of approximately 10 small pegs. Above that, we have a pair of 6-lung axles, about 10 long pegs to use. These 4 are pieces that are special. They're the same length as a long peg, but they're a peg at one end and an open crosshair receptacle at the other. Here we have a pair of 13-hole beams. Now these colors of some of these pieces might be a little bit different from set to set, so we have to focus on the size of the piece. Here are 2 medium-length cables that we'll use to attach the motors to the NXT brick. Here we have 2 of the servo motors, the NXT brick, and 2 9-long beams. So we're going to get started here, building our robot. So initially, we'll take one of the 13 long beams, arrange some of the long pegs to construct a part that's going to be kind of the spine of the chassis of the robot. The piece that we're building here is what we're going to connect each of the NXT servo motors to. So if we look at this arrangement, what do we have here? We have a 13-lung beam with 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 pegs connected to it. Okay, great. So we're taking one of the large L beams, connecting at one end there of the 13-lung beam. Then we're taking that one angled 9-hole beam, connecting it in this fashion, and then taking the other large L beam and putting it at the other end of the 13-lung beam, and then finishing it off on the other side with the other 13-lung beam. What do you have so far? All right, okay, that looks great. So with this core part of the robot chassis, we're going to add a couple of pegs, and we're going to work on a pair of the 2 small L's in the back. Once again, this will be kind of like the skid wheel towards the back. Not really any wheel involved. This small L pair at the back will be the rear support of the chassis of the robot when we're finished. The contact points with the surface underneath the robot will be the 2 wheels and this skid wheel in the back. Okay, 2 more of the pegs at the 2nd and 4th hole from the back of the 13-lung peg allows us to connect one of the servo motors.
Not cooperating.
There we go, okay. And then we'll add one of the other servo motors to the other side, right?
Mm-hmm.
So from the back, that's in the 2nd and 4th hole, okay. Alright, so that's pretty straightforward. Pretty symmetrical at this point, right?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so we have this L attachment in the front. That's where sensor attachments can be connected. In the back, the small L beams will be for support. Okay. Alright, so we're going to set that aside. Now we're going to build a pair of support constructs that will connect this core part of the chassis with the 2 servo motors to the NXT brick. And we're going to center the brick over the 2 servo motors so that we have a reliable center of balance of the robot. So we're using one of the 9 long beams combined with 2 of the torches, we call them. Actually, they're kind of the same length as the long pegs, but they have a crosshair receptacle at one end. Okay? And you can see that's at the 5th and 9th hole of that, okay? The J beam extending off the bottom. And we're adding the corresponding pegs at the top of this construct, okay? There's space for one of the 4 3 long beams at the top. Let's get a close look at that. Okay? Great. So one of these is completed, and we're going to build another one. Because there'll be one of these on each side of the NXT brick. So this is a 9 long beam. Connected to a J beam using a couple of the torches, as we call them. It's the same length as the long peg with a crosshair receptacle at one end. A couple of 3 long pegs at the top of the 9-hole beam. Those 3 spaces taken up with a 3-hole beam. So we have both of these pieces. Alright, so both of these constructs, they're mirror images of each other. So these 2 pieces are going to be connected between the chassis of the robot and the NXT brick. On the chassis, where the 2 servo motors are located, we're going to add 2 pegs across from each other on the rotating orange portion of the servo motor. We're going to connect those with a 3 long 3-hole beam, and then one of the 6 long axles that needs to be pushed all the way through the orange portion of the servo motor. It's not going to show out the other side. You want the axle to come as far as the opening on the inside, but not to protrude any farther than that. Go ahead and add the 2 axles on the opposite side and the 3 long beam and the 6-unit axle. Alright, so we have the 2 servo motors mounted on the chassis with the axles connected. Great. Now we're going to add pegs at the bottom of the servo motor at the 1st and 3rd hole on each side of the chassis, because these are going to be the contact points for where we connect the 2 constructs that we put together that we'll use to attach the chassis of the robot to the NXT brick. And you'll see these J-shaped constructs. We'll go on either side of the NXT, of the servo motors. And then the NXT brick we can connect inside each one of these constructs. Let's take a look at this. So we want the NXT brick to be facing, and from this perspective, to the right. So if we're looking at it this way, upward is forward, And from this angle, we're looking at the skid wheel in the back. Okay, that looks good. We can add the two wheels. Looks good. And now we have remaining are the two cables. Each cable needs to go from port B and C, each to a servo motor. And a good practice is, why not make it simple for the user, whoever's programming. Anytime you use a motor move block in the NXT programming interface, the two ports that are selected by default are the B and C motor. So why not use the B and C ports and leave the A port open for an optional third motor. The motor connections in the brick are at the front of the brick here, above the screen. And just as a practice, we keep the B port, the B wheel on the same side, and the C port to this corresponding wheel on this side, just for the association. I think it's easier for users to remember which wheel is the B wheel and which wheel is the C wheel. Depending on the length of your cable, you can always wind them around the constructs and tuck them underneath the under the robot. And this is our finished product. So this robot functions well. It's well balanced. We have the attachment here in the front for sensors, and this flat, the pair of short L-beams in the back for the stability of the robot. One enhancement that might be made to this design is you could always add some support beams from the front of the NXT brick down towards the frame for more stability if the robot's going to be functioning with any significant weight or torque.